Hey there, and welcome back to the Airlock Module Podcast. I am your host, Yuki Nishimura. Today, we're stepping into the habitat through the eyes of someone who thinks in terms of space and design. My guest is Marta Rossi, a PhD student in architecture, specializing in space architecture at Politecnico di Torino. Marta spent years immersed in classic architecture, large buildings, urban design, and Italian cities. In September 2025, Marta served as mission commander for the LunAres M7 analog mission in Poland, a 14-day fully isolated simulation inside a bunker-turned-lunar station with a 4-person crew. From the commander's chair, she wasn't just managing schedules and EVAs, she was also running 2 research projects, one on spatial behavior tracking and another using virtual reality tools for lunar habitat design, bringing analog astronauts directly into the design group. In this episode, we'll talk about what an architect notices the first time they ingress a habitat like LunAres. So seal the hatch, settle in, and join us as we explore LunAres M7 space architecture and the human side of habitat design with Marta Rossi. Okay, it looks like we're recording. Hi, Marta.
Good. Hi.
Thank you for joining the show. I always like to start by asking where you are calling from and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. I'm calling from Italy. I did both my bachelor and my master at Politecnico di Milano in Italy, in Milan, and they were both in architecture. And after that, I moved to Turin and I started my PhD. So currently, I'm a third-year PhD student, and my PhD is in architecture, but with a focus on space architecture. When I was deciding what to do for my master thesis, I stumbled upon this cool field that's called space architecture, which studies habitats of space projects. And I decided to develop a project for a Martian habitat for my master thesis. And after that, I kind of never stopped researching about these kinds of things.
Your entire higher education was focused on architecture, and the last 5 years have been focused specifically on space architecture. When you think about the path that brought you to this combination of space and architecture, what's the first moment or memory that comes to mind? What triggered all this?
So it was the moment I had to decide what to do for my master thesis. Usually my other colleagues in the university were doing projects from one of their courses. I wanted to do something different, so I started researching possible connection between architecture and space because I didn't know that this connection already existed. So I was telling myself, okay, I like space. I'm really passionate about space, but I'm studying architecture. So how can I let the two things meet? So I started researching on Google, and I saw that there was this professor in my university who had done some research about it. Basically, she was the supervisor for this thesis for space architecture project. So I contacted her, and she also made me connect with another professor. She was a visiting professor at that time at Politecnico di Milano. She was just starting her path there. So I was really lucky to get her because she's an expert in space architecture. That moment when I didn't know what to do for my master thesis and I wanted to connect those two passions that I had.
So before that, what kind of architecture were you studying and were you into?
My master was called Architecture and Urban Design. I was mainly focused on big buildings, not really interior design, because this was dedicated to another type of of course. So yeah, big architecture, classic architecture, and a little bit of urban design as well.
Nice. You once described architecture as an opening in the possible. What does that mean? And when you step into a lunar or a Martian habitat, what possible do you hope to reveal?
Oh, a big question. Thank you. Yeah, I think that architecture opens up a lot of possibilities, mainly because I think that architects have this mindset that allows them to cover a lot of different aspects of a project. So a project has many entities that have to be handled to deliver a proper project that covers all of these entities. So an architect has to be aware of all of these aspects, which could be very specific. So there's a general part and a very specific parts. And the architect is this figure that can have the big picture. I think that having this kind of approach in space projects is really what is needed, because the space sector is has different sectors that are highly specific. And having this kind of perspective that can give the big picture is very valuable, very necessary. And for what I hope to see in the future with this approach, with this architectural approach, I think that architecture in this context could make us build habitats that are not just covering the basic aspects of working in space, but that is covering also aspects for living, for thriving in space. With architecture, we can discover things that maybe with other disciplines or other approaches we wouldn't discover. So how to make us as humans properly live and thrive in space.
Thank you for that. Let's talk about your mission. So, what
Yes.
organization did you go through, and how did you get connected to the LunAres M7 mission?
I'm doing my PhD at Politecnico di Torino right now, so that was my organization. How I got connected to LunAres was like pretty straightforward. I saw the mission opening and I applied to the mission.
Okay.
I learned about LunAres a while ago, and I was following them on social media and looking about possibilities to join a mission in the future. So I wanted to do this experience, to have this experience for my PhD research. So I wanted to include it in my research. And so I was constantly looking at possibilities of doing a mission. The M7 mission came up, and during the summer I saw that there were still some spots left. So I decided to apply, and then I got the position there.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the selection process that you went through, and how did you get the role of crew commander?
The first thing that I had to do was to justify the reasons why I wanted to join the mission. I had to describe my background and why I was interested in it, and then some personal information. Then after that, I got an email and they invited me to an interview. They asked me about the research I wanted to do inside LunAres. It's not mandatory to have research projects while you're there, but if you want, you can bring your own research projects. So I wanted to bring my research projects. During the interview, they asked me if I was okay with a leader role, and I replied. I honestly, couple of weeks or maybe 3 weeks before the mission, we got the list of roles. Maybe it was my reply to that question that got me the role. But yeah, I answered honestly to that question. And I think that is what got me this commander role.
Yeah, no, congratulations. Take us inside LunAres M7. What struck you most visually or atmospherically the first time you ingressed?
So the first time I went into LunAres, it was the first day of pre-flight. So we got there pretty early. So they weren't quite ready because I think we were like 1 hour early or something like that. So we got there and we did this informal tour of the habitat. It wasn't the official tour yet, but maybe felt bigger than expected at the beginning. I think that one of the first thoughts that crossed my mind was, okay, so I should get used to this because this would be my home for the next 2 weeks. So I was starting to adapt, to warm up to this feeling of homeness that I had to build during the 2 weeks. So I think this was the first thought that crossed my mind.
As an architect, can you help paint a picture of what the habitat looks like? First, as you drive up or walk up to it, and the inside.
So as you drive there, you see this big space because it's a military area. So there's a lot of bunkers that are basically the same as the one that was used for LunAres. There's a road that is right in front of LunAres. The taxi leaves you there in front of the iconic LunAres. And it was great to see that because I saw it so many times in pictures. So I was really excited to see it. Yeah, so after you get out of the taxi, you have some entry points to go inside the habitat. I think that the first time that we went in, we went through Biolab. So the two entrances that we used during pre-flight and during post-flight, of course, because during the mission we couldn't go outside, were through Biolab and through the storage unit. So basically the habitat works in this way. There's a bunker, as I was saying, which is not the part dedicated to the habitat. It's the part that has the extravehicular area. So the one that you use to do the extravehicular activities. And then attached to the bunker, there's this central area, which is called the atrium, which is a cupola. Attached to the atrium, there's other containers because this structure is made of containers linked together, and the other containers have the different rooms. So basically the atrium is the central area, and then you go to the other rooms. And the atrium is a really big space, I would say. To me, it felt like sort of an open space of kind of like an outside space. I think this was one of the first thoughts that crossed my mind. Like the central space, which had this high ceiling, was really a breath of fresh air because you have the other rooms which are smaller, of course, and
container
with,
height.
Yeah, container height, which is it's good. They were good spaces in terms of quality. But yeah, having this big space with a high ceiling was, I think, a breath of fresh air, at least for me. And yeah, so you have the atrium, then you have the airlock. And from the airlock, you go to the outside space, the extravehicular activity area. And we were using the airlock also as a gym. So not just for the EVAs. And we were using the airlock as a gym because it was, let's say, the coldest place, the coldest room. So it was better to work out in there in the airlock. But usually they told us that during winter, do not do that because it would be too cold. But they work out in the storage unit. So there's the airlock, then there's another part that connects to the workshop spaces. There's an electrical workshop, and then the mechanical workshop, and these two are in the same container. Then if you go to the right, there's the storage to have our suitcases there. And then there's the operations room, which we were using mostly for med checks. So we had these medical checks at the every morning after we woke up, and every evening after dinner. So we were using it mostly for those two things, and also to do one of my commander things, because at the end of each day I had to fill in this daily report and talk to the crew about crew dynamics. So I was taking one crew member at a time to have these individual conversations to see how morale was, how the tasks of the day were perceived, and they were individual, so that each one of them could open up and say whatever they had on their mind. So those were the reasons why we used that room during our mission. Then there was the dormitory, which of course we used to go to sleep. Then there's a kitchen, and we had all of our meals there together. Biolab. The biolab is a laboratory that is dedicated to growing plants, and we didn't really use it a lot because there were no research projects dedicated to plants at that time. And then the other unit is the bathroom area.
That was pretty thorough. When you walk into a structure like this, as an architect, do you see the beauty of the physical design as is, or does your architectural background kick in and look at the spaces differently? Like, what do you see?
What I saw, and I think this is connected to my architecture background, was that this central space was crucial in giving us a little bit of difference in the perception of the spaces, because we perceive spaces in different ways as the shapes change. And I think that having this different kind of quality in the atrium than in the other rooms, which were more similar in terms of like height of the ceiling and dimensions of the rooms, they were more similar to each other. So having this space that was completely different, I think it was very valuable to have a better experience when in isolation for 2 weeks. So I think that my architectural background gave me a little bit more perspective on this.
Do you start to think like, oh, maybe if the living quarter was here and then the bio lab was here, the workflow would be better. Do you start to think in that kind of like architectural way or designs or anything like that as you go into these spaces?
Yeah, sometimes yes, it happens. Like one thought that I had while I was there was that in the atrium we were mainly working, and we could also use it for other activities like leisure activities, but we had the desks in the middle of the room, so we had to move them if we wanted, I don't know, to watch TV and use. We had these big cushions that we could use to sit down and watch TV. Once we did that, that we moved the desks and we watched TV with those cushions. But other times, I had a projector there for one of the research projects that I was conducting. So we used the projector and we used it on the cupola to watch some series. But yeah, so the thing I was trying to say is that I was maybe thinking that it could be easier to have a leisure area that is maybe already there, or easier to create, because otherwise maybe you're a little bit discouraged in having more relaxed time or time that could be dedicated to social activities. I think this was one of the main things that I was thinking of, how it could be the space could be better arranged.
Yeah, as much as the emphasis and importance of doing research in these facilities, when you think about long-term travel to Mars, I think downtime is as crucial, and to have a space, or at least a multi-purpose space where you can do multiple things, and it's easy to adjust. I think that will become important.
Mm-mm.
You led a 4-person crew. I'm sure every day was a little different. What did your normal day look like?
We followed local time, so that we were also synchronized with mission control. Basically, we woke up around 8. Usually, I personally woke up at 7:45 because I wanted to have like 5 minutes still in bed and then go to the bathroom and not disturb the others that I knew that they were waking up around 8. So we woke up at that time and then we went to wash up ourselves. And after that, we had the med check. Our medical officer was in the operations room. One by one, we went into operations and we had our med check, which was pretty quick. So after that, I think it was around 8:30, and in our calendars, breakfast started at 9, so we had a little time to prepare. And breakfast was the only meal of the day which didn't have a specific person assigned to cooking it. The other meals had each day, and for each meal, we had one person that had to cook. So mission control was deciding who had to cook for lunch and for dinner, who had to clean for lunch and for dinner. So we decided what we wanted to do, and we decided that we wanted to have breakfast together. So I think almost always we had breakfast together.
Nice.
And I was the one that was cooking breakfast.
What kind of breakfast were you cooking then there?
Okay, I prefer a sweet breakfast. In Italy, it's more common to have a sweet breakfast. And also I have a really sweet tooth. One thing is that in LunAres, during the mission, you cannot eat anything
Pro-
with sugar.
Oh,
We
okay.
have some mango, some mixed berries, and some fresh apples, but we couldn't use actual sugar. I prefer a sweet breakfast, and we had this kind of like protein powder. So I used that powder mixed with eggs, with flour, and I made pancakes. Pancakes with some fruit. So we had a lot of mango. The first few days, we had some mixed berries and blueberries. I wanted a sweet breakfast, so I started making pancakes at the beginning of the mission, and it stuck. I was the designated breakfast cooker, but sometimes another crew member was cooking breakfast as well. And in those times, we had a savory breakfast, which was interesting because I never had it before. So it was nice to do something different. So after breakfast, there was the briefing with the mission control. So usually the briefing is done by the commander, mission control, and the executive officer. But during my mission, we didn't have an executive officer. Mission control and we decided how to handle these briefings. So they gave me 2 options on how to handle them. Like we could do briefings all together, so that the task of discussing the daily objectives was not just on me,
Mhm.
because usually the executive officer is also there. So the task is divided between commander and the executive officer. It could be that we just had these open meetings, but I decided to go the other options, to have a first part of the briefing just with me and mission control, so that we could discuss about the crew dynamics of the day before. After that, when we went through the objectives of the day, the briefing opened up to the rest of the crew. We discussed what we had to do during the day. We also discussed what we had done the day before, if we managed to do all the things that we had to do. And And then after that, the briefing ended and our days started. The days, as you said, were all kind of different. So we had some things that were there every day, but like during the morning we had individual tasks. Sometimes one or two had their workout in the morning, the others during the afternoon. Then you could also have some chores like cleaning the habitat. And then another thing that we did every day was one specific research project that was happening at the time. And we had to dedicate 20 minutes every day to that project. Each of us, I think more or less each of us had one project, one individual project. And then we had one group project, and other days we were working on EVAs. So we had to prepare for the extravehicular activities and then also do the extravehicular
Mhm.
activities. We had 4 EVAs, and for each EVA, we switched the role. There were 4 roles, so each of us was covering each role. So we did them all, and every EVA had some specific objectives, and we had some documents we had to go through. So this was also part of the daily objectives. So this is what happened during the day. And then we had lunch. So some of us had to cook lunch, and then we ate together, and then someone else had to clean. And same for dinner. And after dinner, we had some questionnaires to fill in. So every
All the
day we
surveys.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so questionnaires that took maybe 1 hour in total to do all of the tasks
Yeah,
of
because
the.
each research came with a survey.
Exactly, exactly.
I know the
Yeah,
feeling.
yeah. I was also part of the problem because I also had a daily questionnaire. So yeah.
You conducted 2 experiments at LunAres: spatial behavior tracking and VR tools for lunar habitat design. Can you tell us a little bit about those and what questions were you trying to answer with each?
The spatial behavior was about tracking how people move in this isolated and confined environment, and ask them to please fill in the questionnaire each day, but also me. I was also part of this. We filled in this questionnaire about how was our personal perception of the spaces. So combining sensor data with personal insights to better inform future designs for extreme environments. So this was the goal, and this research is still going on. So I will be doing it also in other missions. So I left
Nice.
my equipment there in LunAres, and I will be monitoring it from a distance. And the other one was about VR. So we had 2 VR experiences, which were different. So the idea is to bring behind these projects is to bring the astronaut into the design loop. This was tested with analog astronauts, so people that had no prior experience with living in these kinds of environments, and that step by step acquired this experience. So we had 3 different sessions of this walking through these VR environments, so that we could gather feedback on the design and feedback that evolved through time as they acquired more experience on what living in isolation meant. And we had 2 projects. One, which they explored with a VR headset, and it's called Argonaut Habitat Unit, and it's now exhibited at Venice Biennale. It's a habitat for the moon. And the other one is a space kitchen. It's this application that was on a tablet, and you could explore the kitchen and cook in this kitchen. So it could be something that astronauts use to help them cook in space.
Wow. If astronauts were to live in a habitat partly shaped by your research, what do you hope they will feel or experience inside?
I hope they can both feel at home, find their home-like space within the habitat, but also find some other spaces that we usually experience outside in the real world. We can go outside, have different kinds of spatial experiences. If we when we have social activities, we can go outside, we can do many different things, and if we get bored of staying at home, we can go outside. So this cannot happen in a space habitat, but I hope that my designs could allow a better experience of the different needs for different times of the day and of the week. Like, to bring an example of what happened during my mission and what I felt during my mission, we had the time dedicated to work, but sometimes it was difficult to see the boundaries between work, between social activities or leisure time. It was not so easy to be in those times in the same spaces where you always were. If the design can allow you to have these different experiences, even though you're in the same space, that would be an awesome goal to achieve.
Yeah, I can imagine mental benefits of being able to be somewhere else while you're stuck in this isolated space habitat. It's great. How do you see your work informing long duration missions where spatial comfort, workflow, and psychological merge into a single architectural challenge?
That's a really hard question. And I think that there's not just one answer. So this is what I'm exploring, what I'm studying, part of what I'm studying, because it's not just who is doing things, but also how the project happens, how it shapes itself in this intricacies of the space sector. It's the links between disciplines, between professionals, between different expertise that makes it possible. I don't think that the answer lies in one or two or three professional figures, but it lies in the connections between those disciplines and professionals.
Yeah. I think there's always going to be this conflict because weight is very expensive. To take anything to the moon or to Mars, you have to compensate with fuel and size of the rockets. And so there's this component of like, we need to make it as small as possible or simple as possible. But also at the same time, for something where you get to Mars and it has to be buildable. It's a long trip to get there, and you're not gonna just stay there for a couple of days or even just 2 weeks and then come back. So it's gonna be something where it needs to be a livable space. So I think there's always gonna be this conflict.
But conflicts, I think that bring answers, bring up, they bring their problems. So if we have those problems, if we have questions to answer, so we know that when we'll go to Mars, we'll have so many challenges to deal with. So many challenges in terms of technical requirements, of safety requirements. And then we also have human factors. We have to include all of those things to deliver something, a project, something, a habitat that is actually livable and safe, and also, and economically sustainable also.
Yeah, no, good point, good point. All right. We're at the point in the episode where I ask if there's anything you want to cover that we didn't cover, that, something like, oh, I should have talked about that in the episode.
If someone that is watching this is wondering whether to go on an analog mission or not, do it. I would say do it. It was a really great experience. I didn't really know what to expect. At the beginning, I wanted to have a really nice experience and come home with some cool insights for my research, but also a good experience, personal experience, and maybe also a good social experience. And I think this is what I got. This is what I got, but also I also got something more, some personal growth that I didn't know could happen in that way. And it happened. It gives an analog mission gives you so much, and I would say go for it, and you will not be disappointed, even though there will be hard times, because there's hard times, and this is something that I didn't talk about, how the mood shifted, how it was also challenging, but it happens. It's challenging, but it's also an amazing experience.
Yeah, yeah. It's always hard when you bring four different strangers together. Even with all of the prep work and virtual meetings, there's always gonna be some unknowns, but it's really about how you get through those moments. But I'm glad that you had good experience to the point where you can suggest it to others and recommend it. Well, Marta, thank you so much for hanging out with us, sharing your experience at LunAres and teaching us a thing or two about architecture. Where can people follow your work?
Well, I would say LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was fun. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this conversation, please take a moment to follow the Airlock Module Podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and please leave a positive review or rating. It really helps the algorithm boost the show so that more people can discover these stories and join our growing analog astronaut community. You can also connect with me on social media, on Instagram, Threads, and on X. If you would like to go one step further in supporting the show, I've set up a Patreon where donations are just $3 a month. Your support helps cover the monthly costs of website hosting, editing software, podcast hosting, and other things that help improve the quality of what you hear. Every contribution goes right back into the podcast. I will also thank every contributor at the end of the show. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being part of this journey. Until next time.